Hi, and thank you for visiting my channel. For more information, kindly subscribe and follow. Now let's get started.
Stephanie McMahon has revealed that Roman Reigns was uncomfortable with some of her pitches in WWE. The original tribal chief was involved in a feud with the villainous Authority in the mid-2010s and had his fair share of run-ins with Stephanie. Reigns was a guest on the most recent episode of What's Your Story? With Steph McMahon, where he talked about his WWE journey. Stephanie then brought up her time working with him and discussed how he was different, as he insisted on doing things his own way. "One of the things that was always so different about you was when we were working together, I would try to give you cheap lines like easy, go stay in the kitchen, stereotypical type stuff, and you never wanted to do it. And I'd always be like, oh, it would get such a big reaction, it would work," she said. She mentioned that Reigns was not comfortable with these pitches, and she was trying hard to help him. "But it was never comfortable for you to do that, and I always respected so much that you wanted to do it your own way. But I felt that I couldn't get through to you, like, what is it I am missing? How can I help him? How can I help get him what he wants? I was the heel, obviously, and I want you to shine," she added. While the feud with the Authority helped Roman Reigns get over to some extent, he really came into his own as the head of the table years later. Stephanie McMahon injured Roman Reigns. During the feud between Roman Reigns and the Authority, a segment on Raw saw Stephanie McMahon repeatedly slap OTC1. This occurred during a December 2015 episode of Raw, and those hard slaps had an undesirable impact. In his conversation with Stephanie, Reigns revealed that those slaps left him with a busted eardrum. "Only because I knew if I didn't, you'd slap me 15 times in a row. Busted my eardrum, too. Shattered that S*****. The doctor said, oh, yeah." Reigns said. Reigns has come a long way since then and has firmly established himself as one of the company's top stars in the modern era. When WWE scripts and backstage politics collide, the results often leave lasting marks on the careers of performers. Roman Reigns, one of WWE's biggest modern-day superstars, has carried the company on his shoulders for nearly a decade. However, not every step of his journey was smooth. Behind the glitz, glamour, and pyrotechnics, there were moments of real unease, particularly involving the creative pitches of Stephanie McMahon. Reports and whispers in the wrestling community suggest that Reigns, known for being professional and loyal, was at times uncomfortable with the cheap pitches Stephanie McMahon presented for his character and storylines. This wasn't about personal dislike. Instead, it reflected Reigns' belief in protecting his image, ensuring authenticity in his character, and avoiding scenarios that could damage his credibility with fans. Let's dive deeper into this fascinating subject and explore why Roman Reigns felt uncomfortable with Stephanie McMahon's creative directions, what those pitches might have been, and how this tension shaped his journey toward becoming the tribal chief. Roman Reigns, WWE's golden investment. Roman Reigns debuted on the main roster in 2012 as part of The Shield. Alongside Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, now Jon Moxley in AEW, Reigns quickly made an impact. His look, his athletic background, and his family lineage within the legendary Anoa'i dynasty made him the natural chosen one in Vince McMahon's eyes. As The Shield broke up in 2014, WWE wasted little time positioning Roman as the next face of the company. The problem? Fans weren't ready to accept him in that role, and much of the resentment stemmed from the company's insistence on forcing him into positions he didn't naturally fit. It was during this turbulent transition from member of The Shield to the next John Cena that Stephanie McMahon, heavily involved in WWE's creative process, began pitching storylines to Roman. Not all of them, however, aligned with his vision of how his character should evolve. Stephanie McMahon's creative influence. Stephanie McMahon was an on-screen authority figure for much of the 2010s, often playing the role of the tyrannical boss who manipulated storylines for ratings. Behind the curtain, she was also part of the creative discussions that shaped major stars' paths. Sources claim that Stephanie often advocated for dramatic, shock value moments to generate instant fan reactions. These included over-the-top promos, unnecessary comedy skits, and scripted lines that bordered on cringeworthy rather than compelling. Roman Reigns, even at that stage of his career, understood that his persona worked best when rooted in authenticity. He wasn't a natural comedian. He wasn't someone who thrived on cheap jokes or forced catchphrases. Instead, his power came from his aura, intense, athletic, and larger than life. When pitches from Stephanie clashed with that core identity, he reportedly resisted. The suffering succotash moment. Perhaps the most infamous example of Roman Reigns being given a line that didn't suit him came during a 2015 promo where he called Seth Rollins' suffering succotash, son. The moment fell flat, became a meme, and is still referenced by fans today as a low point in his promo career. Insiders have long believed this was the type of cheap pitch Roman disliked. While Vince McMahon signed off on the line, it was the kind of humor Stephanie was said to enjoy pushing into scripts. Roman himself has admitted in later interviews that he didn't feel comfortable delivering that type of material but did it out of loyalty to the system at the time. This moment is a clear example of why Roman grew increasingly uncomfortable. It wasn't just about embarrassment, it was about how these forced promos hurt his credibility with fans who wanted a serious, believable hero. Protecting the big dog image. Roman Reigns understood the importance of image. Wrestling, while scripted, thrives on believability. The Undertaker protected his aura by never breaking character. Stone Cold Steve Austin succeeded because he always spoke in his authentic voice. Similarly, Roman knew that playing into cheap pitches risked turning him into a parody of himself. Stephanie's ideas, often revolving around exaggerated theatrics, catchphrases, or comedic humiliation, ran the risk of undermining the stoic powerhouse image WWE wanted him to portray. Roman, while still rising, found himself in the awkward position of pushing back against management, knowing his career depended on balancing loyalty with self-protection. The shift toward authenticity. By 2018, the tension between what WWE creative wanted and what Roman believed in reached its peak. His promos still felt scripted, and the big dog character hadn't fully connected with fans the way John Cena once had. Despite his headlining WrestleMania after WrestleMania, many fans rejected him, not because of his talent, but because of the way WWE forced him into awkward roles. Roman's eventual battle with leukemia in 2018 changed everything. When he returned in 2019, fans rallied behind him, not as a character, but as a man. This was the opening he needed. Roman became more assertive in rejecting pitches that didn't fit. When he reinvented himself as the Tribal Chief in 2020, it was a direct result of him taking ownership of his creative direction. Notably, this era saw far fewer of the cheap pitches that had once plagued him. Roman had enough leverage to say no to anything that didn't align with his vision. His work with Paul Heyman, rooted in realism, intensity, and layered storytelling, is a testament to what happens when a performer breaks free from ideas that don't suit them. Lessons from the conflict. Roman Reigns' discomfort with Stephanie McMahon's creative pitches highlights a larger issue in WWE, the conflict between corporate scripting and performer authenticity. While Stephanie's intentions may have been rooted in entertaining the audience, her pitches often clashed with the organic strengths of Roman's character. The lesson? Wrestling works best when the performer's true self is allowed to shine through. Stone Cold Steve Austin once said, "The best characters are your real personality, just turned up." Roman Reigns finally found his truth as the Tribal Chief, but only after years of resisting pitches that didn't feel natural. The McMahon legacy versus the Tribal Chief. Interestingly, Roman's storyline as the Tribal Chief directly contrasts with the McMahon family's traditional influence over WWE. While Stephanie McMahon built her on-screen persona as the manipulative authority figure who controlled stars, Roman's current character thrives on independence, dominance, and rejecting control. It's almost poetic. The very pitches Roman was once uncomfortable with, the ones that made him feel like a puppet, set the stage for his eventual transformation into the man who now commands the show on his own terms. Roman Reigns' career journey wasn't just about winning titles or headlining WrestleMania. It was also about standing firm against creative directions that didn't serve his character. His discomfort with Stephanie McMahon's cheap pitches was more than backstage gossip, it was a turning point in his evolution. By protecting his image and insisting on authenticity, Roman transformed from the awkwardly scripted big dog into the undeniable tribal chief, one of the greatest world champions of the modern era. In the end, the story isn't about conflict between Reigns and Stephanie. It's about a performer recognizing his worth, refusing to be diminished by pitches that didn't fit, and ultimately proving that authenticity is the key to greatness in professional wrestling.